Administrators of the Proxy Web Console in your environment would have access to the Gateway tab, and this lets us set a few back-end things like how long should the server wait before removing stale workstations. Now you may have high turnover, and you might want the server to remove workstations after the server hasn't heard anything from them within maybe a week. That way you don't have to go into the Servers at a Glance tab or Host tab to delete hosts manually. You'll just see extra offline hosts, and nobody wants that, so you'll have an uncluttered list if you set this number appropriately. We can also tell the server how long we want it to wait before releasing a license. You may have some users that stay logged in while they're at lunch, and you have other folks trying to use the license. We can tell the software to log you out after X amount of minutes of inactivity to free up the software for other people. Those might be the highlights in the general section. The Web Console section lets us set a message of the day to be displayed at the top of the screen for all users. Maybe you might put your help desk number in there or something else. We can also tell the software to use the rebranded images that you might choose to use in place of our stock images here. And beneath that, we can tell the server how often to update its database. Not too interesting there. Moving beyond that, we can set which protocols we want the server to listen for hosts on and masters on. By default, it will use 2303, UDP, and TCP inside your network, and also SSL. And this is what we would enable for external connections, and typically the port would be 8443, or in this case, 443. We would also set address restrictions within the software, although the bigger hammer would be at your firewall level. We could set restrictions that say that the gateway server will permit connections and ignore or ignore hosts that are coming in from certain address ranges, and disallow the masters from connecting if they're not coming in from a valid IP address range. Beyond that, we'll see auditing. We can tell the software to store the audit log in an alternate directory if the installation default is not going to fly. And we can also tell the server to create a new audit log every day if you practice different archival purposes. And we can tell the software also never to delete audit logs if we so choose. And let's go down a little bit further to the recording section. So the software will allow recordings to machines, as I've mentioned before, and they're stored in the installation directory of the software, and you can tell it to be storing recordings in maybe a network share, a different drive letter. And we can tell the software to record the host at a lesser screen capture profile. Sometimes you just want to see what was happening on the machine, and not every little bit of clarity is necessary. So we can tell the server to just do the recordings at a lesser rate because we don't want them taking up too much room. That's the idea there. Automatic recording is a feature that kind of supplements this in that we can say when certain machines are connected to within a certain site or group, rather, that the server would initiate a recording to go along with that connection. Alternatively, we can specify that a certain user, by putting in a username here, that they get a recording to go along with any session they initiate. Moving beyond that, we can set an automatic grouping policy that tells the server that when hosts come in from a certain IP address range, we'll stick them in the appropriate group that matches that. So if the machines are coming in from 192.168.1.1 through 255, we'll give it a safe number of addresses here and say we'll go into the local address group if I had one. And we can also tell it to just group machines by Active Directory rule. So if you want your machines to be set up and your groups to be groups to match that of your Active Directory structure, we could enable that if that's your preference. And those would be the highlights of the settings within the Gateway tab here. We can add a license, set local address ranges so that the server does not create unnecessary reverse connections to them, set polling ranges, and gather information about the server for diagnostic purposes. That would be the highlights of the Gateway tab here. The Gateway tab network sub-tab is an interesting point because we would tell the software how we want the connection window and the host on demand components to communicate with the server from inside your network and also from outside your network. In the case of this server, we have it listening on this DNS alias here on Secure WebSockets port 443, and this would be the port forward rule we would make on the firewall to match this. Customers would create an A record for their server, typically like proxy.servername or companyname.com, and that would be the address that would go in here. So Proxy Pro lets you own and operate and manage your own remote desktop support portal for IT administration or help desk support. We'd love to invite you in for a demo, and we can answer your questions live and have a chat about your current remote desktop software situation. This is Ryan from Proxy Network Support. Thanks for taking a look, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.